Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, Hero Hoists, and Martin's Panel Masters. Well, it's time to get up close and personal with some engines of a different kind on this week's Classic Restos. Well, here we are in Geelong, Victoria for the 2019 Geelong Classic Truck and Machinery Show. There's lots to see and do over 2 big days, but before we go any further, a little emphasis on where the piston engine first began. Before a time of gasoline and air mix, combusting under a compression stroke, there was steam. The magic vapour evolving from boiling water, enclosed in a chamber under pressure, to push a piston down the bore and to turn a crankshaft. Steam, the ultimate example of liquid hydraulic lock. Hydraulics, representing water molecules as steam. It will not compress. Just like hydraulic fluid, it moves in a ratio of 1:1, potentially having the power to move anything. A piston connected to a conrod, connected to a crankshaft. What an almost seemingly now prehistoric design, but one that is still used today. And apart from electrical alternatives, this method still stands as a favourite. An engineering marvel, proven, reliable, universal, practical, powerful, the best. The first steam engine ran in the year of 1698, about the year my nana was born. Would you believe that it took a period of about 100 years to develop by 3 British inventors? The first steam-powered machine was built by Thomas Savery of England. His machine helped to pump water out of coal mines. But the first commercially successful engine that could transmit continuous power to a machine was the atmospheric engine, invented by Thomas Newcomen around 1712. Newcomen's design was improved on Savery's steam pump using a piston. However, Newcomen's engine was relatively inefficient and mostly used for pumping water. But it was Scottish inventor James Watt who helped to change the world by greatly improving the Newcomen engine, and as a result of his efforts, James Watt is known as the inventor of the steam engine. Only trouble was, when someone called his surname in a room, everyone else turned around and looked. Today at Geelong, this incredible event replicates this era of industrial revolution, a time when technology took the world by storm and hence changed it. A steam-powered engine of any type or any size stands as a true mechanical industrial marvel.
G'day, I'm Steve Moore. I'm chairman of the vintage machinery section here, have been for the past 5 years. My job here is to look after all this gear and promote it and show it off to the public. It's all been lovingly preserved and we have a real passion for this stuff. We just want to see it keep going forever. Now, it kicked off in 1969 with one of the local farmers, Wilfred Buffton. He brought in a shaft cutter and did a demonstration. Another one of our old timers, Trevor Warren, who's still with us, who's in his 90s. He's still here today helping out. He's on a mobility scooter, but we can't keep him away from the place. He has still lots of stuff here that he worked with on the farm, and he's a wealth of knowledge. You just can't beat having guys like that around. What these engines mean to me is it's showing the history of our forebearers, the pioneers that made this country into what it is. They grew the vegetables, made industry, agriculture. In this shed there's machinery that was it ran the wool scouring machinery in Geelong. It was a hub for all the wool coming from the inland to go through the Geelong port and go back to England and all over the world, I imagine. And some of the engines are well over 100 years old. Like right behind me there's a pump that came out of Johns and Waygood, which became Denny Lascelles, and that used to double dump the wool, so it went over to England. Like they'd push two bales into one, so they could get extra and then wire band them. So that's a lot of history, and we've preserved it. That building's been demolished, and now Deakin University has the campus on the site. Yeah, we welcome you here at 2019. We're having a really big show this year, and we just really, it comes from the bottom of our heart to get everybody here we possibly can and really just have a good time and soak up the atmosphere and help build on what we've got. We're all volunteers here. None of us are here to make a dollar out of it, just show it off. Really would like to see you back here in 2020 and make you feel welcome.
One outstanding display here at the Geelong Showgrounds has to be the machinery shed and the stationary engines that are inside of it. Now, it's open around about twice a year. Greg, you do a great job here. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, Fletch.
That's good. Now, tell us, what do you do here?
I look after all the big stationary engines here in the vintage shed. I'm the one that oils them and keeps them in a running condition, and starts them and runs them during both the vintage rally and the Geelong shows, the main times we run these engines.
Greg, these pieces of machinery, they're so big, they're so mighty. The camshafts, the lobes, the roller gear, everything's so big, yet just the basic oil can keeps it all lubricated.
Yeah, that keeps it all going. Without the lubrication, everything will wear out. So,
Greg, tell us, how old are some of these machines?
There's quite a different number of ages here. Most of them are sort of like 20s and 30s, these big stationary engines.
Look, not a silly question. I've always wondered this. Does anything really wear out on these things? Because they're not high revers, as I've just alluded to. They're journals. The mechanical side is so heavy duty on these things. So what are the parts that wear, if any?
Well, everything wears eventually. Like some of these engines are going on 100 years old. So it's 100 years of turning around. It doesn't, even if they wear very, very slowly, after 100 years there's a bit of wear to be seen.
Greg, if only this machinery shed could speak, the stories that it could tell, the machines here, the men that used to work around them, and the ones that have been preserved as well, the amount that it might have been rusting under a tree, and they've been reconditioned, and here they are now. I just find these pieces of equipment fascinating.
Yeah, well, there's some of these engines had a fair bit of restoration work done to them. Others are been fairly genuine, come from their working positions. Things like the Blackstone behind us here, that was on an old three-wheel horse-drawn cart from when it was pulled out of the butter factory at Pyramid Hill.
Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you.
Pleasure catching up with you, Fletch.
Thanks, mate. At the 2019 Geelong Classic Truck and Machinery Show. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Fletch.
My passion for cars began when Nana and Pop bought their new Toyota Crown. It was Nana's, really. She loved that car. We went everywhere in it. My passion now is just the same, even though my cars are a little different. I've still got Nana's car, couldn't part with it. And I reckon if she was here today, she'd be insured with Shannons too.
Call Shannons on 13 46 46. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles.
check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? Hare and Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare and Forbes has the range.
One of my favourites here in the shed, this one behind us. How you doing, Thomas?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Good, good. What's the go here?
Well, this is a ship engine out of the JP Webb dredge. Used to work for about 50 years up in Melbourne, dredging the Yarra and the Bay. It's a triple expansion 1,000 horsepower steam engine. It's the biggest thing we got on site here. It weighs 30 tonnes and uses a lot of steam to make it go.
Geez, there's some big stuff going on here with this machine. What sort of horsepower are we looking at?
1,000.
At what RPM?
About 180.
That's just massive torque, isn't
That's
it?
a lot of torque. When you see how big the crankshaft is, and the coupling bolts are about 2 inches diameter, and there's 6 of them.
I tell you, I'd like to see you remove one of the journals before Smoko one day.
We have done it. Yeah, we had to have the HP big end out years ago. Greg did that, and yeah, no, it's heavy.
So, Thomas, it wouldn't be just a case of give it a linish and put it back in, would it?
That's pretty much all you do. You take a couple of shims out because of the slow revs it's doing and how big everything is, and the wearing surfaces are so large, they very rarely wear out. You don't have any troubles.
Well, that's what's always fascinated me about these engines. How long do they go for? What sort of major maintenance, well, what things do happen to them?
Well, really with this, the only thing that'll happen is you'll scrub out a gland or a scraper box or something like that. You might get a hot bearing if you haven't kept the oil up to it, but that's about it. It's been running like that since 1954.
Always good to chat with you, mate. Now, I think I had you on Classic Restos, would have been a few years ago now, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
You were wearing the bowler's hat.
Yeah, I've left the hat behind at the moment. I'm here in my official duty instead of clowning around.
Good on you, mate. Always good.
And you, Fletch, thank you.
Cheers. When it comes time for industrial art and mechanical achievement, what would you rather stand and look at? An electric motor or this? G'day, Stuart.
G'day, Fletch.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Are you having fun here today?
Oh yes, it's very good here.
You'd have to be surrounded by all these small engines, absolute works of art. Tell us, what's going on with this one here?
Right, whereas most of these engines are steam, this one here is a hit and miss engine. It's basically a 4-stroke engine with a hit and miss governor. Very common on the farm back in the 20s, and now just represented in these vintage doos like today.
Stuart, explain to us the hit and miss engine, the principle, how does it actually work?
Right, it's a 4-stroke engine, but it's governed to a fixed speed with a built-in governor on the flywheel, which holds the valve open so that it's coasting, i.e. missing, and it hits when you load it up. So it gets to a point where it's a simple 4-stroke engine, firing every second revolution.
Stuart, wonderful talking to you. This is incredible here at Geelong Showgrounds. Here in the machinery shed, a caged area, there must be perhaps 15 odd engines that have been built, rebuilt from scratch to perfection. The precision and the engineering on each and every one of these engines in fine detail, it's unsurpassed stuff, isn't it?
It is.
Thanks again, Stuart. Well done.
Right, thanks, Fletch.
Moving along, outside now, the 2019 Classic Truck and Machinery Show here in Geelong. How are you, Angela?
Oh, good, thanks, Fletch.
That is great. Now, what have you got behind this? This is just, there's no words for this. Tell us about what you've got.
Well, we've got a 1919 Moline tractor here. Belongs to my fiancé and I. It was obviously built in 1919, but at its time, it looks like a complete contraption now, but at its time, it was actually the forefront of sort of engineering at the time.
1919. It's good to see that you got a late model one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where did you find this?
It actually came from a dear friend of ours. He'd started it as a restoration project, pulled it apart with the best intentions, and but never finished the project. And when he was looking to downsize his collection, it was sold to my fiance.
Now, not a silly question. When it comes to parts, you just have to fabricate your own, right?
Absolutely. It does have some, I believe, car or truck pistons that have gone into it that are modern and aluminium. My fiance could correct the details on that one.
You're doing pretty well so far.
But yeah, essentially we had to make bits and pieces. I was making gaskets and pins and bits and pieces that we needed to complete it. But essentially it was a big Meccano project.
Back in 1990, would it have been almost taboo for, I guess, the lady on the farm? This was the guys' department, yeah?
Absolutely. The idea of a woman probably driving something like this would have been completely unheard of. But really, even reading the manual for this tractor, they go into to how to set up your shed, how to change an engine, the absolute bare bones of mechanics and engineering, because of course for the farmer who was buying this, he was coming straight from horses and ploughs. This was a completely different way of working on the farm, and they needed the basics, how to set up your shed.
Do you have any problems driving it around here this weekend?
No, not at all. The problem is our course is a little bit tight. Obviously it doesn't go in the tractor pull, but it manoeuvres and moves really easily. It's easy to start and easy to drive.
I think this is amazing. Bit of girl power here at Geelong as well, with such an archaic device. You know, there's no power steering and air conditioning on this one. If you're wondering who Thomas was as well, the fiancé to Angela, he's the cool dude inside with that ship engine. That's one thing about this event here. There's so much diversity. It's not just turning up into a paddock and seeing a little bit of machinery. You got trucks over there, the machinery shed. It is awesome.
Oh, thank you, Fletch. We do try and make sure we've got something for everyone.
Good on you. Thanks, Angela.
Thanks, Fletch. See ya.
Hey Fletch, there's a few really interesting features on this tractor. Built in 1918, it's got a proper automotive engine on it with pressure-fed lubrication. It's got a dual plate clutch, proper cooling system with a radiator in it, dual fuel which changes automatically from petrol to kero. The model before this had electric lighting, electric start, fly-by-wire governor, electronic ignition. This one's got diff lock, steering brakes, front wheel assist, and it's got an implement change capability well before Mr. Ferguson ever thought of it. It's a very interesting tractor and well ahead of its time.
And it goes without saying, if you own a Classic, it just has to be insured with Shannons. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. And keep in mind too, if you have anything to do with a Classic bike, Classic car or a Classic truck club, make sure that it's registered with the Shannons Club for all the world to see. For more information, visit shannons.com.au.
Every weekend around Australia, motoring enthusiasts get together to share their passion for cars and bikes. It's a passion that brings us together. All sorts of people, all sorts of cars and bikes. From the classics of today to the classics of tomorrow. At Shannons, we understand enthusiasts. So when it comes to insurance, it's got to be Shannons. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 134646 for a quote.
In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicentre. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range.
Martin's Panel Masters has 3 modern accident repair centres. They service Melbourne's inner, outer east and the fast-growing southeast corridor. Your vehicle will receive the best from state-of-the-art repair equipment finished beautifully from computer-based paint mixing systems, finished in Australian compliant spray booths. Martin's Panel Masters, located at Ferntree Gully and Berwick, also Box Hill Panels.
Okay, it's time for Pete now on today's show. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, Fletch.
So, hey, mate. Good to see you back for 2019.
Yep, good to have you back, mate. Haven't seen you for a few years.
Oh, there you go. It can only be in one place at the one time. I've got to spread myself thin.
Wanted man. Yeah.
Pete, you've got some new things on the paddock this year. What's going on with these saws?
Yeah, just chopping a bit of wood, mate. Pretty basic sort of stuff, you know. Just go a bit old school, get rid of the chainsaw.
You've gone state of the art here. Explain, run us through how this works.
Mate, start the engine, pull it in gear, and off she'll go, maybe.
He's always a wealth of information, isn't he? There's no doubt about it. Okay, the history of how old is it? Where did you find it?
This one is probably 1935 model, and I just ratted out of a mate's shed a couple of weeks ago because I thought it'd be good, and I was pretty sure none of my other stuff would go, but coming out of Steve's shed, she was a good goer.
You didn't have to do much to it mechanically?
No, not really. Just free it all up, get the rust off it that you can see, and off it'll go.
A lot of timber cutting history in Victoria, so I guess there would have been quite a few of these laying around.
Yeah, they're pretty thick on the ground around here with the Otways down the road, so yeah, they're not the hardest thing to come by, but getting them going is a different thing.
Good on you, mate. Well done. Good to see you again,
Right
too.
on.
And,
Yep.
and good to see Jack back here with you as well this year.
Jack's lurking around the back there somewhere.
Yeah, good on you. Good on you, Pete. We'll talk soon.
No worries. Thanks, Fletch.
And of course, one main attraction here at the Geelong Classic Truck and Machinery Show every year in and year out, that pulls the crowds, is the legendary tractor pull.
This is one attraction that not only drags big weights, but it continually drags the crowd as well. And why? Well, it's a mechanical test to see whose tractor has the most power combined with traction to pull the heaviest load the furthest. Here's how it works. When the guys start off, the counterweight is over the rear of the trailer, creating minimal drag up front. As they move forward, this counterweight moves up the trailer as well, increasing the weight over the rear axle of the tractor, thus increasing the drag. This is when it becomes grueling. Torque through the driveline and rubber traction into the surface area.
Only the strongest cover the most ground in the easiest time. Into the tractor pulls now we go. How you doing, Chris?
Good, Fletch. Very well.
That's good. Tell us about your tractor.
Well, it's a 1954 Nuffield, which of course is an English tractor. She runs with a Morris commercial engine. It's petrol Kero, sorry, and it's universal, which means that it could be, anywhere in the world, basically. Yeah.
It runs so well.
It does. She's beautiful. She's actually called First Lady. So she's my first lady.
How appropriate is that? Now, Chris, yesterday we saw you down there having a bit of a tractor pull.
Yeah.
It did it effortlessly in your class. Now, you're under the 25 horsepower class, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, under 25. So really, well, most people that know about tractor pulls would know that a lot of it depends on the weight that's on the back that's being pulled. So she's good most times, and I've been tractor driving in tractor pulls for a while now. She does well. She wins in her class. Makes me very happy, upsets a few men.
It's all about getting the power down to the ground, and that's like, well, anything automotive. We can see the tyres here have got big chunky tread, they bite well, they pull hard. We've got other tractors with shallower tread, they fill up with mud a lot quicker, really goes against them. But I can't believe it's amazing the amount of horsepower that these tractors have with gobloads of torque. Low horsepower, but can just pull massive weights.
Absolutely, and sometimes the actual tractor is understated. People don't realise the power that's behind it, regardless of the size of the tyres or whatever. Yeah.
Where do tractors go back with you? From a little girl? Is this something that's happened later in life?
Only in the last, maybe 4 or 5 years. Yeah, friends that had tractors, and like this beautiful one. And so I said, I wouldn't mind having a go at that, you know. And so all of a sudden, here's the girl with the nail polish and the lip gloss and the pearl earrings, and she's in tractor pull.
You have to love the determination. It's such a, well, let's face it, it's so male-dominated here. So there's a couple of ladies here this weekend that really get amongst this sort of stuff. Wow. Yeah. What do we say about that?
Well, I think that's also part of the adrenaline rush, Fletch, in as much as it is a man's world. And good on the fellas. But I like to think I can give them a run for their money.
Yeah, you sure can. It's been lovely catching up with you, Chris.
Thanks, Fletch. Good on you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Time for Robbie. How you doing, mate?
Good yourself, Fletch?
Good, mate. The tractor pull for 2019 here in Geelong Machinery Show. How awesome is this? You're one of the loudest. I think you might be responsible for the introduction of a few hearing aids amongst some today, mate.
Oh, well, someone's got to do it, doesn't they?
Tell us about your tractor.
It's 1960, I think it's late 1950s, it's an Oliver with a 453 GM in it. This one here was they're called a mighty tow, so they're used to towing stuff off and around the wharfs and whatnot.
That's pretty appropriate.
Yeah, so they're real low geared and whatnot, so yeah, found this one up at Beaufort. So yeah, the old man done a bit of a deal. And
so Robbie, how many horsepower are we talking?
Motor is 115, but drawbar it's 98.5 it is, so yeah.
So Robbie, when you start pulling the sled, the counterweight moves forward. When it's all the way, how much drag, like how much downward pressure are we looking at that point?
Oh, it just depends really. Anywhere, it could be anywhere up to probably 7-8 tonne. Sometimes could be more. It just depends on the friction of the ground and the moisture and everything, so yeah.
Just the sheer power needed to pull that plough through the dirt with all that downward, boy, and you can really start and see these things torque up and pull.
Yeah, before when I was on the sled with the bulldogs pulling that, you can really you can feel it going through the chain and that, and you go, shoo, yeah.
Now, Robbie, what about traction-wise with the tyres? Obviously, even down to tyre pressures must play a big part.
Yeah, the tyre pressures do. We kind of wing it a bit. We don't worry about tyre pressures too much. We just play around with them and see what works the best, really. So all tractors are all different, so different ground, everything.
Now, your dad's here today as well with the blue tractor, right?
Yeah, yep.
Now, Robbie, the time you've had the tractor, have you had to do much to it?
No, not really. Just had a couple of new hoses and just replace the oil, virtually. Probably should have done a bit more, but oh well, don't really use them all the time, so yeah.
They're a durable bloody thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You just got to, know where to push them to virtually, so they're not too bad.
All right, Robbie, great catching up with you, mate. Good on you.
No worries, you too, Fletch.
What do you think of that? What an event. You have seen just some of the 2019 Geelong Classic Truck and Machinery Show, and you've seen it first on Classic Restos. Check social media pages and see if you can get here for this event in 2020. It'll be well worth your while. As I say at the end of every episode of Classic Restos, until next week, no matter where you're watching the show from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, Hero Hoists, and Martin's Panel Masters.